Please no.
No, no, please no.
If we had a
Now
super,
perhaps nice.
if we had a Super Bowl of brass bands, how would that
Ooh,
go?
I think we'd have to have a playoff, and we'd have to have I don't know. Well, we'd have to have a larger budget.
That's like that's
It
like
would be less
the old
controversial.
it's like the old band of the year thing back, like all those YouTube videos of the band of the year back in the 80s.
Well, we do have the Atlantic Brass Band's team pretty much, and Fountain City's team pretty much in the Super
They
Bowl
do. They
still.
roll deep.
So
It's crazy. I remember like the first time Fountain City took the stage because I took my band for the first time last year, and like we didn't warn them. So Fountain City takes a stage, and then that whole posse just blows up. My band's like, where? Where are these humans? Because the children they're also loud. Their screams project. That's the
Yeah,
fun part.
true.
So, well, I think first thing we need to do, because he Doug likes to hide back there behind his cornet. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself so we know, so our audience knows who you
Yeah,
are and
sure.
what
I'm,
you
I'm
do
kind
and
of
what
kind of
band you're
new.
with?
Absolutely. I'm Doug Lindsey, and I am a cornet player, principal cornet of the Georgia Brass Band, and I also play a lot of different things in the Fountain City Brass Band when I get the opportunity. So I've been playing brass band since I was a kid, probably junior high. I started at the Ozark Mountains British Brass Band in Northwest Arkansas, and it was pretty fun. I played rep, and I met some of my good friends coming up there, and I really learned a lot about how to play an ensemble and how to play in a good team. And then from there, I moved away. I played there for a long time. Then I moved up to Madison eventually, Madison, Wisconsin, do my doctorate, and I played in the Madison Brass Band, and that was a lot of fun. I think that band, the first time I was in it, we competed in second section and won, and I think that was like the biggest deal. We just had the best time. So I've been in brass band for a long time. I knew that when I moved back to Georgia to get my teaching job that I have now at Kennesaw State University, I was like, I'm going to join that brass band. So in 2012, I got to Atlanta to teach at Kennesaw State, and immediately contacted Georgia Brass Band and hopped in and was on the solo cornet row, like playing solo five. And now 10 years later, 11 years later, oh my gosh, I'm president of the band and principal cornet, and we're competing in NABA and having a great time. That's a little about me.
Yeah.
So, are you
Wow,
in the Kennesaw Marietta area?
Yeah, it is. It's literally Kennesaw. I live in Woodstock, fabulous Woodstock. It's great. Atlanta's really nice. The weather's really good. Our brass band is a lot of fun, and I can't complain. I like living in Georgia.
So, are you closer to Atlanta or are you closer to Chattanooga?
Oh, much closer to Atlanta.
Yeah, okay.
It's,
Because I know
I'm
it's
100 miles.
in between almost.
Yeah. So I get to go. I was just in. I'll tell a little bit of a story. I get to go to play Fountain City a lot. I've been to England with them a few times, and I play most of the shows with them. I just don't really compete with them because my hometown band is Georgia. I was just at the Missouri Music Educator Conference, and uh, we had some absences. It's brass band. I don't know if you've ever had a brass band without an absence. I don't know if that's possible. So between being sick and like somebody's dog like needing a ventilator or something, I had to fill in. So I ended up playing like on that cycle during rehearsals, flugelhorn, like solo cornet, second cornet, principal cornet, for big rehearsals. And it was like, what is this? And we were working on Titan's Progress and a bunch of other stuff for this thing. So it's kind of fun. I like it. I like that challenge. Yeah, it's a good group of people. And nice thing about that is like they have some connections with Arkansas, and that's my home state. And a lot of folks are from there. So Jen and Patrick are like some of my great friends. Jen's principal, and Patrick's playing tenor horn, which still blows my mind because he was a trumpet player for the longest time. But he's went to the dark side.
trumpet players make the best tenor horn players. They really do.
He's good. He's good. Yeah, it sounds really nice. And he bought this nice new Besson. He's ready to go. So I always love to go up there and visit with them. And, I've become fast friends with Lee. And, the rest is history. I just enjoyed that opportunity. And, brass bands are all the same for me. Everyone I've been in has been like really fun, and it's the same kind of culture everywhere. So, we go, we do the thing, we play the hard music, and then we go out, we drink our beer and we talk about, this director, that director. I don't know, this person in the tenor horn section, or maybe the big guy in the tube section. I don't know. We're always poking fun at people, but we're doing it out of love and fun. And I really think that that's what draws me to this activity the most.
You were talking about do you ever have a rehearsal without anyone missing? I think my I'm heading out to California to play at I don't know what it's called, California Music. I don't know. I think it's like CASMEC or something like that. But it's the Music Educators Association, conference. And we're playing with San Francisco Brass Band, and the solo euphonium player is sick and might not be able to play. So I might go from soloist to solo euphonium as well. Just hop right into the band.
It's okay that you know how to do it. It's
Well,
just it's part of the tradition.
yeah, yeah, we'll do it.
I don't think my band's had a rehearsal in years with 100% of the players there in the room.
We had one Tuesday night. We had everybody there, and I was like shocked. We had we're having well, this is interesting. So I know for everybody for NABA we do different things, and our whole schedule gets jostled around. We're trying to almost have like two different bands, Georgia Brass Band, because there's some folks that just don't want to compete, and there's some folks that really want to compete. So I have to cater to everybody. But we had Freddie Martin in, who was really great. If you know who Freddie Martin is, he's Chris Martin's dad, Michael Martin's dad, sweetest guy ever, and brilliant brass pedagogue. So that was a real highlight. We've been bringing in quite a few people in the band and trying to up our game a little bit in Georgia. It's been really fun seeing the band grow. And for me, being the president, it's like, okay, I like to take this organization and show them what's possible, and then up the game a little bit. And it's been well received, I would say, and I feel like the experiences I've had with Fountain City have helped to shape some of the stuff we're doing with Georgia Brass Band, and I just want to keep it going. That's why I joined the board, to help out and keep that mission alive.
Yeah. How is the organizational structure with the Georgia Brass Band? Like, is the president of the board essentially an artistic director, or?
No, we have a board, and I'm the president, and Joe Johnson is the artistic director. Joe's our normal conductor for concerts. For competition stuff, he's not so big into it, so we've been asking others or hiring out for the competitions. And then, the board's about like 6 or 7 people. It kind of depends. We're having elections in April, so I'll let you know what changes.
Is it usually members of the band that serve on the board?
Yeah, but we're trying to, this is probably something that's pretty relevant to every brass band. Is like we're trying to figure out how the band board can be more effective. Because I know that we got a lot going on as musicians. We're trying to hobble together an existence. All the guys in Atlanta, I would say half the band are music people, and they're, they've got this adjunct thing here and one over here, and they're teaching like 15 students. They're doing 5 sectionals a week. They're coming in like just under the wire of rehearsal, like looking like they maybe ate like a piece of toast that day because it's just been so busy. But it's how it is, and we do it because we love it, or we keep, I don't know, telling ourselves we love it. I think I do. It's pretty fun, and we do it because we share that vision, I would say.
I wonder. I was just curious with the attendance thing, because I think so many bands struggle with this attendance policy, and bands will set an attendance policy and then no one follows it. I've never been in a brass band that had an attendance policy that everyone actually followed. Or
it's so hard to police it, because these people are volunteering their time in the first place. For a lot of them, so it's like, I can only be so mean about it, All right, that's how I feel anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can only have a policy that has teeth when there's a solution to the problem. If your principal tenor horn player decides he's just going to not come to rehearsal, and you're like, well, we're going to boot him out of here, and get a tenor horn player where?
Exactly.
There's 4 tenor horn players in Raleigh, and they're all playing in the band right now.
We had that problem, Tony. A number of years ago, our tenor horn, the first solo horn guy was a little flaky. He's a good friend of mine. I don't want to badmouth him, but he was flaky. So he eventually moved away, and that's fine. So we had we're panicking, who's going to play solo horn? And we had auditions, of course, and we have auditions every year just to try to bring in new subs and whatnot. And that's a great way to combat some of those holes. I can plug in XYZ from this audition, and they're going to come in and have a great time. And you start to understand that networking. But back to the horn thing, a guy named Michael Mayo came in. He's a trumpet player who had just graduated from UGA a couple of years ago. Played the game and played brilliantly, really nice. you wouldn't expect a trumpet player to come in and play the tenor horn lovely, but yeah, apparently they do really well. So from there on, like last year, we had a guy come in and we had too many euphoniums. So I'm like, okay, you know, you play euphonium pretty good. You ever played a tenor horn? And he's like, no. And I was like, well, it's your lucky day. So I put him on like the tenor horn, and he's kind of learning it. I think he doesn't like that, but he's playing euphonium actually for us for NABA. He's a great player. He was a good sport about it.
I mean, it seems like what I found is like, the guys who like play a horn and that's like what they do. Like for me, I probably wouldn't move to tenor horn because these are the things I play on a regular basis, right? And that's like my gig and what I do. But like most community members who are like just want to be in a band in general are like, yeah, I play trombone, but we're like, we have a tenor horn spot. They tend to be the ones who are more welcome to like, I'll try out E flat tuba, sure, whatever I need to do, to at least be with this group of individuals.
Well, that's the whole point behind the how the instruments evolved into the B flat and E flat. Everyone reading the same music parts, the treble clef, so that you can interchange anybody. Somebody, your euphonium player can't play. All right, we'll take a cornet player, stick them on euphonium. And that's how the amateur pound band type of aspect of that kept it going. But it's what we struggle with in North America is what that true British culture, British brass banding culture is. And that a big part of that is not missing rehearsal. You go to the top champion bands in England, and they have people that are driving. Some bands have people driving a couple hours each way twice a week and never miss. If they're sick, they're sitting in there with a hoodie on and scarf, and they're still sitting in their chair and they're still playing. So
it takes years to culture. I would say it's a culture thing, right?
Yeah, it's a culture thing, right? What I perceive it to be here is the American community band, the American culture is what makes it difficult for us, is because for some reason Americans think that every time they pull their brass instrument out of the case, they need to get paid to play it. That's just an American culture thing. So they don't like playing in groups. At least really good players are like, well, I don't like paying dues. I don't think I should have to pay dues and all that. And then the community band aspect of it is, well, I'll play in your brass band on Tuesday night, but if something else comes up, I'll go do that too. So because I'll just so being in the band means that you have the first opportunity. You get the chair, but if something else comes up, you can turn it down, and somebody else, who cares what happens? And that's just the culture thing is kind of tough to do.
Yeah. When I first got to the Georgia Brass Band, I mean, I love all the guys in it, and I've had a lot of friends in and out. But the solo cornet row, I remember some nights being, one of five, or not one. It was usually two of five, on 2 or 3 occasions, and it's usually 3 or 4 of us there. But people would drop out night of, they're texting me, oh, I don't feel good. Like, yeah, right. They're just like, I want to go drink beer. Like, I do too, but I also want to play the cornet. So that's the kind of a slow thing.
The amount of times, I know. We rehearse at 7:30. The amount of times I get like 9 text messages at 4 p.m.
Oh yeah, it's freaking nuts.
It's I call it the Wednesday afternoon massacre. I'm not going to make it tonight.
When I used to teach music appreciation courses at the community college, you would never believe how many grandparents passed away the last week of the semester. That was
the brutal time.
It was a very brutal time, and some grandparents I heard from other professors died twice. 2 different semesters. At the end of the semester, it must be a traumatic time.
So I've had some of the best, this is tangential at this point, I've had some of the best emails from students asking for excused absences for just ridiculous things this semester. And it's all been at the, I won't say which university, but let's just say it's the flagship institution of the state. And I got my favorite email that I've ever gotten from a student was asking for an excused absence so he could go on his retreat with his fraternity. And keep in mind, in this lecture, you get 4 excused absences. Like you get 4, like you just don't show up, buddy. It's okay. Just don't be here. Just take one of your 4 and go drink. Go drink your PBR and do what you need to do, my guy.
So like I think now our band has got like a little better like vibe. I mean, part of that for me was like, okay, I see this band, I want to make it something good because I think there's a lot of potential in the Georgia Brass Band, or else I wouldn't be in the position I'm in. So I set up trying to create, a little bit more serious culture. And I think part of that is going out afterward and hanging out and, having people come over and just playing duets. I often have back row guys back to my place, and we'll just play, and I'll kind of like hear them play, and we train them up a little bit. That's always kind of a trick, is making sure the back row are horses, because that's a problem in brass bands all over the place. Is the back row not knowing how to bring some sound. So I like to spend some time with them, just to make them, I don't know, up to speed with what I would like, at least.
Yeah.
Random. Here's my dog.
Hi, doggy. Who are we talking to? We were talking to someone who suggested taking horn players and not putting horn players on tenor horns, but putting the horn players on the back row because they could pump out the sound. Who was that? Who said that?
Sounds great.
Do we remember?
I don't know.
It's on a podcast. We should like award someone. If someone like comment on this on the episode, if you can remember who it was. But it was someone who said, you would think that you would put the tenor, you would think that you would put a horn player on tenor horn, but instead put them on the back row, and they'll pump out the sound. And I was like, holy cow, that's a great idea.
Yeah, but either way, they still have to learn how to play right-handed.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. And they get a little bit
more.
Don't
they do that with mellophone anyway? Like,
yeah, they do. That's always been one of my things. Like, if you're willing to play mellophone, I don't know why you wouldn't play tenor horn. It's a much better instrument than mellophone.
It's a good argument. I'm going to start making that too. I actually have a new colleague. I work at Kennesaw State, and we were having search candidates in for a band director job we're searching for, and we were at dinner last night, actually Tuesday night rather. And one of our candidates, like, she used to play horn, right? And I was like, well, if you get this job, I got this brass band, and I got this thing called a tenor horn. She's like, oh, it's intriguing. And she's trying to be nice to me because, she wants this job. But
oh yeah, she's totally sucking up. Sure.
Yeah, maybe she doesn't want to play. So I'm always trying to. I'm always like my feelers out there. What's that?
Sure, I'll play the tenor horn. Give me the gig. Let's see.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you because Sorensen's up there now.
Sorensen, yeah.
Have you convinced Ryan to play in the band yet?
I have asked her, and Ryan. I just got his email, actually. I got Ryan's contact 2 days ago, so I'm just getting to know him. We got a stack.
People. He absolutely needs to play in your band.
Absolutely. Okay, great. We have.
Tell him I said so.
Fine, I'll text him.
We definitely miss him in the state, for sure. I wanted to circle back to that, like that board conversation, because I feel like this is so helpful for anybody who's inside of it. Because I feel like what happens, I mean, community bands to an extent, but I feel like one of the really hard things for like a lot of us brass bands, I feel like most of them are 501c3s in some capacity in terms of operation, and it's hard for us to actually get that like nonprofit board of people who are like just board members who like pay to be on that board and do the same things that that happens in most like arts nonprofits. And how do you how do you jump that line from being an operational board to a board that actually like makes things, does those sorts of things?
No one knows because no one's done it.
No one's done well. I mean, I think I would advocate having an interview with a person who's into that, like an arts administrator, someone who's done that, like at maybe a youth orchestra program or something. My buddy Michael Oleski, who runs the Arkansas Music Works Brass Band, we grew up together, and he's like my best friend. He just had a meeting with the guy who runs the youth orchestra program for SONA, or one of the organizations in Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas. And he's having some good productive conversations, and they're partnering up with this organization. It sounds like they might be able to get some spaces, and they might need to, they even have talks about maybe playing on concerts with the students. And his whole vision is to try to do it through the youth brass band and try to, get the parents in there. And I think that's pretty wise. I mean, Tony, you've got a youth brass band with a triangle. And I've seen it being very successful. Yeah, I've seen it very successful with Fountain Cities as well, working with them pretty intimately. So I think part of it is you got to create the desire for somebody to want to buy into a program like that. And for good reasons, the desire exists when you have children involved, because that's the future of our, nation. So you might as well give them some brass band, and then your parents are going to see that and be, oh, they're really into that. They're disciplined. They're working hard. Well, we better support that organization. And then you get like a really go getter like accountant as a parent. Maybe they want to be on the board. I think it just happens pretty naturally. But this does assume that you have the time to put together a youth brass band, organize it, and all that, which to me is wildly amazing. Anyone can do that. I watch Helen Harrelson do that at Fountain City, and I know how much she puts into it. And I don't know how yours works, Tony, but I'm sure that you're putting a lot into it as well.
Well, I did direct the youth band here from 2001 to 2013, and I did put a lot of work into it. When I took it over, there were 17 kids in it. Luckily, I didn't have to start it from scratch. I took it over in year 3 or 4, or something like that. But while I was doing it and putting all the work in, it grew from 17 kids to, it kind of reminded me when Amy was talking to me about her starting her youth band, and starting off with like such small numbers. I had 2 cornets, and a flugelhorn and a full low brass section. That's all I had when I started with it. And when I was done with it, we had 2 bands, with over, 60 or 80 kids doing it. And then 2017, we started a 3rd band in the organization, and it's all under the Triangle Brass Band organization. So it's, the youth band doesn't have a separate youth orchestra type board or anything like that. Our board is very busy trying to manage 3 bands as volunteers, and it's very difficult to do. There's a lot of work certain parts of the year to get that going.
So the Dublin community bands, I think, must be relatively similar. Dublin has, I'm gonna leave some out probably. So any people from Dublin, don't be upset with me. I think there's like a Dublin like big band, there's Dublin concert band, there's Dublin Metro brass band, there's Dublin silver brass band, there's Dublin youth brass band, and I think there's I'm leaving at least
So many brass bands in Columbus, it is insane.
Out, yeah. And so
you guys
they
have
are
a show choir? You got a show choir?
But there might be an orchestra, I'm not sure, but they're all under the Dublin umbrella. And so I think all the directors of the ensembles are on the board, and then there's some community members on the board. And it is like a huge, it's a ton different coming from Atlantic, where it was one brass band connected to a university, and there was, one account and stuff. This is
Atlantic connected to Rowan. Am I right about that?
Yeah, they're the ensemble in residence at Rowan. So that helps a lot with rehearsal locations, and they can host the Mid-Atlantic Brass Band Festival just at Rowan. I think they pay some fees to be able to use the Rowan percussion, just to cover them if anything happens. But Rowan handles a whole lot, and I think they might have to do like 2 free concerts at Rowan for the students, so that they can see what's going on.
That's something I'm trying to get set up at my university. So I'm at Kansas State, and a lot of our faculty, well, I'm the only full-time person there. So the school's big. It's 45,000 kids. The music school's about 300, 280. I have 20 kids in my trumpet studio. We have a big brass area. So most of the brass players play in the Georgia Brass Band. So I was able to convince my boss this year to say, hey, let's put some concerts on. We're doing a special Year of New Zealand concert. I should explain that. Every year we do like a featured year featuring a different country. So like last year was Greece, maybe 2 years was Greece. There was Morocco next year, I think. This year is New Zealand. So I saw that. I'm like, I think they do some brass band stuff in New Zealand. And they do. I got in contact with a few of the brass players over there. And in April, we're going to do this. Actually, it's bad timing, but we're doing it. April 14, we're doing a concert of all different music, all featuring, New Zealand and New Zealand composers, and some Australian stuff too. And then we're also going to we have a big screen. We're going to bring in some of these brass players, and then we're going to have the Maori dancers do their ceremonial thing. Cool. What is this called? The dance is the haka. I think something like that.
Is that the thing that rugby players do? Exactly. Yeah.
that thing. But then we're gonna have them in there too, so that's gonna be pretty cool. And this year, I've convinced my boss again to like let's put a concert on in the fall, and so that's been really good. Oftentimes the brass band comes in and we do a collaboration called Brass Blast, and they'll like the kids will all play with the band, and they'll spend the whole day practicing and performing with the faculty. So we have like kind of like a loose connection. It's not a formal thing, but I think that, man, for any kind of brass band, having some affiliation with a school, having affiliation with a university, a local church, I think it's a must. So I don't know if there's any brass people making brass bands or like wanting to start something or grow it, get to know your community really well.
Yeah, because I mean, we in the UK, the bands usually have a band room that was built ages ago, and they have that, and it's theirs, and they're done paying off the mortgage because it's 100 years old or something like that, and it's those band rooms are tiny, but they have their space and they have their storage space and usually a bar downstairs.
Oh, I have a story. We were in England, both in 2017 and 18, and we were competing at Brass in Concert with Fountain City, and we got to stop in Dobcross, and we played for and with the Dobcross Silver Band, and they have one of these like you speak of. Like you walk into this facility, and it's pretty small, but like first thing you see is like the bar area, and that's pretty cool. You walk past that, and it's got a little like a mini concert hall where we were performing. And that place was packed out, and they had a little American flag, hanging from the ceiling, and we were rocking them. So I have like 2 or 3 friends that I speak to on Facebook sometimes, just randomly, like, how's it going? Well, it's good. How's the Dobcross Silver Band? So I really dig, and I wish we had something like that. And not without like making an extra lot of money, is that probably going to happen? But fingers crossed. Maybe we can find someone on the board that's got some discretionary income that they want to throw at a facility.
Yeah, somebody's going to need to win the lottery for that one.
Right.
Thinking,
I don't know. I have hope here that at least in my state that it can happen, because there's recently, like within the past 2 years, 2 community or per service and community. Started community and then became per service. They've gotten grants to have facilities, and so it's like, if you're doing it the right way, I feel like it can happen.
That might be a really interesting clinic to have at NABA sometime, Tony, just because I think a lot of people are interested in something like this and in creating an organization, and maybe there's some people out there that know how to do it. I bet they'd be happy to volunteer their time because they're brass band people.
Yeah.
I think Dublin is proceeding with creating that. There was just a city council meeting. They did a whole study where they interviewed a bunch of people. They figured out where people lived who were going to the Columbus Arts events, and there are a significant number of people around in the Dublin area, which is like northwest Columbus. A significant number of people in that area who are traveling to Columbus to go see theater events, and they did all of this analysis and came up with the idea of having like a space with like a 800-ish seat theater, having a rehearsal space, some practice rooms that like local teachers could rent out, which I would totally, depending on the finances, how much it costs, I would totally rent it out, because right now it's my foyer where I'm teaching out of. So, but they're moving forward with it, and it is probably going to be a thing. And I'm sure the Dublin bands would have to rent the space, but we have to rent the space at the church where we rehearse anyway.
Do you really? Okay.
Yeah.
We just know some people.
It's funny how when governments, especially local town governments, get into the arts business like this, they end up, because it's public funding and everything, they have the model of, we have to help everybody, and by helping everybody, they really don't help anybody, because it doesn't do us any good to have a concert hall that we can play in once every 2 or 3 years, because there's no space available, because everybody's in there booking it, and it doesn't help to have a building that doesn't have a rehearsal room that can get everybody, so they did that here in the Cary Arts Center that they built, and took an old school, turned it into an art center, and You know, they help a couple of groups a little bit because it's so big and so busy. They really don't help anybody for what they actually really need. So it's a tricky thing.
It is. You want to be helpful to everybody. We have it. We used to use Last Sitter's Concert Hall. They have this fabulous concert hall. But I don't know about you guys, but this year in particular, I just a lot of little like fees have been added on. Like people are like, well, we got to protect. You know, it's the CYA. Cover your ass. You got to protect the facility. So we get these like $800 bills. Plus, you got to buy a liability insurance. Plus, you got to like pay for the percussion. It gets long. Suddenly like I want to put on a concert. Well, it's $1,500 to put on the concert. Well, I hope I get enough ticket sales to cover even that. And that's tricky sometimes with the brass band. And I wonder how you guys this is me being curious, like how do you guys go about advertising for concerts? Like do you have like a built-in base audience? Because that's something we're discussing right now, trying to build that. We have some diehard Georgia Brass Band fans, but I'm always like willing to, or well, wanting to build that base up. And it's hard in a market like Atlanta because there's so much going on. So to capture people's attention is tricky.
Yeah, that's the problem here is there's so much, community or amateur type of music going on here, which gets a totally different audience base than the professional groups around here. The professional groups get the people who are willing to pay 60, $80 a ticket. And it's a lot of, people who are just interested in community groups, but it's also people who have gotten a following over these groups over the years and friends and family. So, it's a real tricky thing because I think most brass bands struggle with this. We have the number one marketing problem that we have is it's a band, and then it's a band that nobody's ever kind of heard of because it's not a concert band. So you have to be really creative about that. We do terrible with getting audiences at our concerts. It's not something that we're proud of, but we've had a really good year so far this year because one of our people have been just attacking the social media stuff for our band, Instagram and I guess Facebook and Twitter. I don't know, but mostly Instagram, and just really pushing constant information out. And the two concerts that the concert the youth band did and the concert that the Triangle Brass Band did, had a decent audience because of these things. That may be the only thing you can do is just if you can get 100 or 200 or a couple hundred, you're doing really good unless you have a major special event. And another thing that we've tried over the years is collaborations with other groups. And you do a concert with with a choir or with something like that, and then that usually will get you a decent audience for that one concert, but the audiences aren't going to transfer over. You're not going to play with a community choir and then now those community choir audiences are going to be brass band fans and come to all your concerts. It just doesn't work like that. But it's a one-off thing where you can have a great experience with that. It's just not an audience builder.
One of my favorite collaborations we did a few years ago was a holiday show. We did it at a big church, so we utilized a real large organ, Johns Creek United Methodist Church, and we also collaborated with the Atlanta Trombone Ensemble. And it's like 25 guys and gals playing trombone. Yeah, so I took Russian Christmas music and I added a whole new trombone part to it, and we like ended the whole concert on like this epic Russian Christmas music. It still gives me goosebumps when I think about it. So I think absolutely making collaborations is the thing, and that's for me, the first thing I did when I moved to town was join the band because I knew that I needed to meet people and I needed to start networking. The collaborations that for me is a great way to extend that net a little bit more. So I think that's awesome and something we're always trying to do in our band as well.
I think when I can't really say for Dublin yet because I haven't been here for long enough. But in Atlantic did a ton of shows and some of the things that Atlantic does that are successful. One is I mean, not everyone has this, but we would travel to the Jersey Shore because there are so many like Victorian era towns on the Jersey Shore, and so we would sell it kind of as like nostalgia. You're in this Victorian coast town, go see the brass band and the cute gazebo in the park. Atlantic had some some crazy gigs. I remember we were hired once for an insane amount of money. Well, we were hired every year, but I remember when we were first hired, and they told us, we were like, so they want us to march through the mall to bring in Santa, and we were like,
Awesome.
okay. So, and then they're like, they want Here Comes Santa Claus, and Santa Claus is coming to town, just on a loop. And we're like, yeah, we can memorize that, sure. And they're like, and they're gonna pay us $3,000 for like a half hour of work. And we're like, okay, we can do that. Where do I sign up?
Get the Salvation Army book out.
Right, exactly. So we did some stuff like that. One of the best gigs ever was a collaboration with a winery. We did a summer show and we did a winter show. This was fantastic, and it was sold out every year. I don't know why we like.
It was because of the wine.
Yeah, brass bands, like, you need to do this because it was an easy
Brass
show to
band,
put together.
you got wine? All right, we're there.
Right.
Okay, here's an important question. I have an
Yeah.
important question. What wine people's best with cornet playing?
I don't know because I play euphonium, but we did
Well,
put
I know.
wine, free wine.
didn't-
I think you're asking the wrong question. I think it's more like what wine pairs well with Philip Spark. I think that's really the
Oh,
question.
fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah.
But
No, I'm on that with you.
we put free wine into the contract, so we all got free wine after that gig.
Awesome.
But we sold out every year, and for the Christmas gig, it was a really easy one to put together because we did like the sleigh ride type stuff for the first half, and the entire second half was a sing along because they had all had like 2 or 3 glasses of wine by then, and all they want to do is sing along with, and they're like moving waving the glasses in the air, and they're singing, and it's a great time, and they paid $25 a ticket.
Sounds like Oktoberfest, except in December.
It's great. And then the summer stuff was just kind of like, Beatles transcriptions and stuff, and they're just having a great time sitting amongst the like outdoor like plaza thing at the winery, and drinking their wine, having their appetizers, and listening to the brass band. So if you have a winery near you, like, get in touch because it was a fantastic show, and it was sold out every year.
We have a lot of breweries. I wonder if that would work.
A lot of breweries here in town. We started to have a lot of success with our newsletter. We do a monthly newsletter, and that's been getting people. And sometimes the newsletter is just like, what are the musicians up to? And sometimes it's upcoming event stuff. But where we really started to draw, and like where our crowd is the band kids. We do a lot of educational outreach and bring them in, but we've also started to, I got tired of playing one concert on really hard music books, because we work on these like really, really, really rough tunes, and then we play one concert a lot of the time. And so I was like, we're going to play 2 concerts per book, and one of the concerts is going to be an outreach concert, and we will go to one of the area high schools and play, and just built in, we'll play for the kids. And then we always build in some sort of like, I have a lot of doctors in music. I'm in my band. We have a lot of professors. We have a lot of whatever. So it's easy to just like, hey, we would do this, and we'll help you get ready for MPA or solo and ensemble or whatever. And then when we get done with that, we'll play a concert for you that night. And we have this built-in group of kids. And, obviously not all 200 members from the band are coming to every single one of our concerts, but we're getting 10, and after a few years. And I feel like that's also like our mission of like being an educational performing ensemble. That's where we're helping out a lot. But it's just like, I see so many kids get stoked and excited about marching band and all that sort of a thing. And it's like, how about if it sounded good and was, better? And then they come and sit down and watch it.
How do you get your band to play a morning gig for a school?
We don't. It's after school stuff.
Oh, okay.
I can get like a handful of people to do like quintet stuff. We've done that before, but that's much more rare. Or and also like I feel like a lot of everybody's bands are like, half my band was at one point band directors. We have less now.
Yeah,
Ours not very many band directors, actually. We have 1 or 2, but I've been in bands where it's mostly band directors before. It's tough in ours now. We have a lot of just gigging musicians, so that's been trying to get the buy-in on Tuesday night to work. it's tough, but I think it's better now. Having a band director is great because they have access to those band rooms, which we've definitely taken advantage of. But they're the busiest people on the planet. I mean, I'm a music ed major. I almost became a band director, but I thought better of it. I was like, I'm gonna go teach the trumpet instead. I need to realize.
Yeah, but those band directors are getting less and less access to their own spaces these days.
They are.
Yeah,
getting tougher and tougher.
We used to be able to just like walk in. It used to be a thing, and now it's like a whole process. It's been so bad. We're getting nickel and dimed left and right. Same thing, Salvation Army here in town too. We got billed out of the Salvation Army. We used to play at every single time, and their music director is in my band. What's that?
How much they want to charge you? How much they want to charge you for that?
They wanted $500 per use.
Yeah, ours is like the same, $500 or $800. Is very expensive, and we were playing at the Salvation Army Temple in Atlanta for years, and then we had to scramble and find a place. And luckily, we knew a couple people that were kind enough to allow us to use the fellowship hall. If only we came and did a couple services for them, which is fine.
But keep in mind, like my bass trombone player was their music director. Like it's like, and they were charging us for like having somebody locked down the Salvation Army. I'm like, he's literally gonna be here. What are you talking about?
They don't want you there, but it is. That was their
bingo, and that, which is fine. It is what it. If I wish it would just say that.
They wanted $500 per rehearsal for weekly rehearsals. Or
yeah, it didn't matter if it was a concert or rehearsal. They didn't care what it was.
Insane. That's insanity. What they were saying is, we don't want you here.
They did apparently. I talked to Jim a little bit about it too. Apparently, they did the exact same thing to the Sunshine Brass Band. Before it was the same Salvation Army that the Sunshine Brass Band used to play at, and they got the same treatment.
Yeah, that fee is just like, we don't want you here, so we're going to charge you such an outrageous price you can't possibly do it.
I think we have. I'm not entirely sure of the numbers, but I think we have to pay. I think we have to pay $500 to have a concert at the church where we rehearse. And I do think the concerts are different. You're having a whole lot of people come in, and and I think the band is paying to rehearse in the space, but I heard that the fee, I don't know what the number is, but they said that it was very small and very reasonable. So I don't know what that is. And the youth band is supposed to be charged. If anyone knows anyone at the Northwestern Church in Columbus, don't tell them this, because I was told that the youth band was going to be charged and they never charge us. So I think they're kind of just looking the other way, because I'm like, the bank account for a first year youth brass band is not very
rich. Yeah,
exactly.
Amy, just remember, okay, people will pay a lot of money for activities for their kids that are valuable. People will pay $2,000 for soccer, for volleyball, for golf, like all this stuff. Like, what are you charging the kids to play in the band?
I'm charging them. I'm charging them $150 unless they can't pay, and then they can pay. So I have one kid who's free this year.
I'm sure you're always going to want to make it possible for some people who can't pay to be there, but there's also a lot of them that will pay $250, $300 easy for a whole year of that stuff. So
we also name. We have some people who pay for certain students who can't pay for their youth band fees, and we don't tell the student who's getting paid. We just have them on financial assistance, and we name those people as performer sponsors in the program.
Oh, performer sponsor. That's a nice idea.
We have so in Cobb County is kind of where I am here in Georgia. The kids, so I teach all sorts of trumpet players from different high schools. Like in 20-mile radius, there's probably 25 high schools, right? And these kids are paying like $2,000 or $3,000 for band fees, which I'm a kid from Arkansas. I graduated in 2003. Oh, that's crazy. And we didn't have band fees. And to come to like Cobb County and just to see like the spectacle that is what they're putting on, which is there's pretty cool. A lot of it. Some of it's, I think, kind of dumb, but whatever. I'm not a band director. But I can't imagine paying $2,000 to put a giant tarp out on the field and then proceed to dance and play microphone baritone solos onto it.
They wouldn't have to if the school systems would pony up any money for the arts.
they do pony up a lot of money for the arts. You should see the facilities and things. They're
Yeah,
really beautiful.
but yeah, it's better there than here. Here they give zero. So like these kids are funding their own experience, and it's sad.
It is for sure. I mean, it's probably not the way it is with football, but that's kind of the age-old story, isn't it?
Right. Well, I mean, so how I have it set up is I have it's $150 for this, because the youth brass band is set up to go from January to like April or through NABA when we're ready to do that. So it's $150 for that. And then we do a summer 2-week workshop. They pay $50 for that. And the summer 2-week workshop has virtually like no expenses. Choose like 3 pieces, meet for like 4 rehearsals, and do a performance at the Ohio Brass Arts Festival. So that $50, we have no expenses, so that is planned to go right into the account to help with when we do have expenses for this longer term. I'm trying my best to keep the expense of doing it low. We also have Dublin, the city of Dublin supports the arts like a ton. Like, so we had enough money. The youth band, let me say this again before I finish the sentence. The youth band had enough money to bring Tom Hutchinson over.
Nice.
So we're covering it for.
Did
we run out of space? Oh,
I misclicked.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That'll be a fun edit.
You just fall asleep.
So
I was trying to close the window and those buttons were really close to each other.
I'm
trying to come up with a question.
He'll splice it.
I'm doing research.
I think he's trying to tell us that we need to shut up.
Oh.
But
my storage would appreciate it.
But
I kind of want to talk about the solo ensemble and like the contest coming up and everything. It might be kind of cool if someone's listening to it, because all that just closed today.
Yeah.
It's going to close tonight in about 4 hours from when we're recording.
Yeah, which is, I get an email every time someone signs up. So I've been getting a lot of emails.
Me too.
Which is great. I'm really excited about it.
This is
for the first time.
This is looking like it's going to be one of the largest solo ensemble contests we've ever had at NABA.
Great.
I made a poster.
That's what
I can't wait.
Over the edge.
Probably not. I'm bringing my students. So every year for my students, the last 5 years or 4 years or so, I arrange a brass band piece for trumpet ensemble, and I hand all my guys like cornets and flugelhorns.
I've seen your Year of the Dragon. I've seen your Year of the Dragon.
Yeah, Year of the Dragon last year, and then year before that was Harrison's Dream. We did a recording for COVID, and then year before that was Metropolis, which I thought was really fun. And this year we're doing Tristan Encounters. And
nice. That's one of my favorites.
Me too. I entered them into the contest, and I think we got a good shot. We're going to be pulling for that KSU brass ensemble. But that's something that I think I've seen my students' eyes open up like real big just by showing them, hey, here's some great music. You don't get to hear this super often, and now let's learn this stuff. And it takes 6 months really to get it up to like a high quality level. But at the end, it's they kick butt. They get to bring that music to the national stage, which no one's heard that stuff. Everyone's always doing orchestral transcriptions. That's great. I did them too, but to have like a brass band voice in there, it's just so different and new. Everyone's always like, oh, that's really cool that you did that. I'm like, well, you too could play in a brass band and play all this repertoire.
That sounds like some like Uncle Sam style like poster.
That's too right, but
play in a brass band.
But like, you got it.
Well, that seems like a good spot to do our question of the episode, Aaron.
Well, that's good because actually it is topical to what we were talking about, because I was going to talk. So, I've been having a lot of conversations about transcriptions. What's your favorite brass band transcription from something that's not original brass band?
Oh, I really like La Forza del Destino. I've played that a number of times, and I think it's well done. I really love that tune. Mm-hmm. It's just a lot of good stuff. I mean, I've played a bunch of them, but the one that I think is probably the most ridiculous is the movement 2 from the Shostakovich Symphony Number 10. Dun dun da da dun da da da. Brass band and Battle Creek did it, I think, and it's just like, what the what is this?
It's funny. It's funny. The Triangle Brass Band played at the NCMEA conference in 2018, and we opened with the Shostakovich 10 that you were just talking about, and we also played the Force of Destiny on that concert.
Which one maybe this is because I was in Atlantic and we had Sal, Italian conducting us, but I really like the Nabucco transcription. And he's so great at conducting and bringing stuff out of opera transcriptions that really came to life with him. But so I like Nabucco. I do like Force of Destiny. That was the first brass band piece that I ever played because I was late to the party. But Nabucco is my vote.
Yeah.
Okay, you're here.
I'll probably put mine down since all of those are great ones that I like, but I might probably just say Elsa's Procession to the Cathedral. I've done that so many times, and it's always a good one.
Oh, I have another one. Dang it. Pines of the Appian Way. We've done that a number of times. And that's really freaking cool for brass band, man.
Yeah.
It's loud.
I've done the Bearsuits Finale from Firebird, which is really good. There's so much. So much. You know what? Carnival. I did Roman Carnival one time, and that was good. And there's a Shostakovich 5 that's really good too. A finale for Shostakovich 5. Really? Yeah. A lot of notes.
It kind of hurts on the trumpet.
A lot of notes.
Yeah, it's all on the trumpet.
And then of course, Festive Overture is another one that a lot of people have done. That's a pretty good one. So what about you, Aaron? I don't think you chimed in, did you?
Mahler 2, Harper's.
Oh yeah, I've done that one.
I haven't done that one.
Especially when you convince everybody to use practice mutes for the beginning as opposed to straight mutes.
Yeah, it's really soft.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a spectacular one. That's probably one of the better orchestral concert finales you can do. It's awesome. It hurts though. I feel bad.
We made the mistake of programming it on Christmas. We did the Resurrection Symphony for Christmas.
Oops, wrong holiday. But that one hurts the players. I feel bad every time I program that because I know the players are going to be like on their face.
I have a question for y'all. I just kind of it's slightly tangential, but sort of related to conducting and conductors. Like, what do you think is holding back some bands from like having a great conductor, and what does it mean to be a great brass band conductor? Because I know what I would say, but I'm curious.
I know the answer.
Well, then you get to speak.
All right. This is the core problem, and I'm not saying this to offend anybody, but when bands have an opening on their podium, they run to the closest university to find the best DMA conductor that they could possibly find, and sometimes means they're getting somebody who has a background in clarinet or a background in anything else, saxophone or whatever, and they're great musicians and they're great conductors, and they don't know they don't need or have the brass pedagogy that they need to work a brass band. What brass bands need is a brass trainer.
Yep.
Okay. They don't have to know how to conduct. This flies in all the DMA's face on this. But brass bands don't need great conductors in front of them. They need people to train them. Okay. And if they can conduct and stay enough out of the way, then the band's going to be just fine. You can look at a lot of the videos across the YouTube sphere and all the conductors in front of these brass bands, and they don't look like they've been trained at an American university. They don't look like Michael Haycock or Eugene Corporon or anything.
They're not Gary Junkin or something.
Yeah, no, they don't look like that. But their bands are spectacular because of what they do in the rehearsals to train them to get them there. That doesn't mean they're not fine conductors. They are, but it's
had a lot of.
It's the ear.
Conductors in. No, we had a lot of different conductors in, right? And I love Joe. He's a good friend of mine. He's got a style of conducting. We have had like Joe Parisian. We've had David King in, of all people. We're having Colin Holman in. So kind of seeing different takes on that has been like super, super astounding. And just to see like the way the band responds to a different type of musicianship or a different type of like stick technique. I think you're totally right, Tony. You have to have a person who's going to train, but having someone who's also super proficient and clear and has a musical mind for it is amazing. And we don't necessarily have people that are being trained over here for that. And that's too bad. And I want to get the brass bands involved more in a university setting. And I like what is happening in our movement with like North Texas, with Oakland, various of the brass bands. And I think that's going to be kind of the genesis for creating the next generation of great brass band conductors here in America. Because we're just importing right now, you know. We're net importers. And I would love to us to be, you know, a little bit more serious on the stage. And I think it might start with some of those great conductors.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also, you know, a matter of people who are leading bands in North America now, going into brass band school, brass band leading school, and getting in touch with Nick Childs or Bob Childs or Philip Harper or, you know, any of these Alan Withington or these conductors over there, and working with them and talking to them and learning what they do and watch them rehearse. You know, I mean, I've been working with Philip Harper a lot over the last 5 or 6 years. He's come in and clinic the band, and you know, I've seen dozens of rehearsals that he's run, and I'm taking notes in every single one, you know, to make sure that I'm learning what he does and how he does things with brass bands, because these guys do specific things with brass bands that we don't do over here. Most American brass bands sound like American community bands with really, really good players on brass, but they don't have.
I started taking some lessons with David King. I've taken like 10 lessons with this guy. And, you know, I knew he was very good, but man, the dude knows what the hell he's talking about. And his perspectives on brass playing changed my life, I would say. And I think that anybody would take from him knows that. So I know what you mean by Philip Harper. He's an extraordinary musician. There's no way that band is playing as well, the Corey band's playing that well, if Philip Harper was not on the podium.
No. And it was the same way with the same way with Bob Childs before that, or Nick Childs, or you know, or one of my favorites is the Tredegar band, you know, with their conductor, Ian Porthouse, like an excellent musician, but the band is just spectacular because they have that kind of training, and that's what you can do when you have great players who are willing to be trained, even though they're beyond the training level. They're not in university anymore. They're not students anymore.
They're never beyond the training level, though.
That's exactly it. But that's something that we have that's unique to America, is that, and that's what we're struggling with, is the bands that can get into the training mode all the time are the ones that are really going to be getting the most authentic brass band experience.
So Atlantic has Sal on the podium for the stuff that you see. The stuff that you don't see, Brian Appleby Weinberg is on the podium. He's the band builder. And in their rehearsals, they have a book of rhythms that everyone plays, unison rhythms, unison notes. Every rehearsal, it's another challenge of rhythms. It's another challenge of multiple tonguing. It's another rhythmic challenge. It's another warm-up challenge, different people playing the warm-up, stuff like that.
Did Brian go do a sabbatical or something over with one of the British brands a number of years ago? So he kind of picked up some of this from, you know, the source, which is awesome.
He was over with, was it Brighouse for a bit? And and so it was so he worked with the band, and that was when Atlantic went from last place in championship to near the top consistently, you know, and that was what happened. Instead of just telling the band, you can't tell the band to play to play quieter. You have to keep working on consistently pulling that down. You can't just tell them to play louder, because they are what they repeatedly do. So you have to have the band builder, and you have to have the conductor. And in some cases, I think that's the same thing. And in some cases it's not, but you have to have those two, you know, those two overall
personalities, or like ways of knowing or thinking, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a builder and a polisher.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
The training is the key. And I think, you know, a lot of American brass bands, they like to go to the next university, get a DMA wind ensemble guy. We got a great conductor. Here we are, because it's that community band mindset, you know, that we're kind of stuck in. You know, maybe this conversation will start to change that. Who knows?
Ooh.
End recording. I gave you the out.